Okay, the plot is thickening, guys. This is big. Now, I have some information to share with you today, some unique observations from a source that shall remain anonymous to share with you that I assure you you're not going to hear anywhere else. And while the source is anonymous, I can assure you that they're among one of the most well-informed individuals that I know. And that's saying a lot because you've seen the guests that we've had on the channel. Now, they brought something to my attention, which I intuitively sensed something was off at first with the Putin press conference that he gave today, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it, so I kind of just cast it aside because there was so much else going on. But they elucidated exactly what they thought was happening, and I want to share that with you today because it's of great significance. Now, before we dive into that, I just want to say for anybody who's lost in the obscurity of this whole strategic ambiguity nonsense, whether or not the United States, are they going to go or are they not? Look, just look at the facts, okay? There is no doubt. It is 110% confirmed the United States is going to war with Iran. How they enter the conflict is anybody's best guess. Are they going to slowly start interspersing their own F-35s until Iran notices and then let the cat out of the bag? Are they just going to unleash the stealth bombers and then we're going to hear about it after the mission is complete? There's 1,001 ways that they could mission creep their way into this war, but they're going to do it. Okay, it's a foregone conclusion at this point. There's no debate whatsoever. America is going to war with Iran. Look at all the facts. They're evacuating the embassies around the region. They're evacuating the military bases in Qatar, in Bahrain, in Syria, in Iraq. They're fleeing Israel, of all places, which is strange, and not the people, because apparently the people are having a hard time leaving because I guess they need to use them as human shields and cannon fodder when the time comes, kind of similar to the Ukrainian model. But it's interesting to me that all of a sudden people are stepping over one another to get out of the U.S. embassies in Israel. Why is that the case? I thought that the Iranians were running out of missiles. Didn't we hear this? They destroyed, apparently the Israelis destroyed 1/3 of the Iranian missiles. And that's it. You know, it's in the bag, right? So why then are they fleeing the embassies of all places? You know, because would that be a target? Would that be a viable target? It might be. Or they could just go down the street to a hotel unless they were worried about something nuclear going on. The Iranians demonstrated a 2-stage ballistic missile today, which possibly signals that they have the means to get ICBM up in here, if you know what I mean. Get intercontinental up in here. And that could be why the Doomsday plane is live in around Washington right now, okay? All of the data supports that we're going to war. The billions of dollars invested thus far, the forward deployment of hundreds, if not thousands, of military assets, warships, refueling planes, bombers, fighter jets, the most advanced fighter jets. It's all being, sent to the Middle East, CENTCOM. It's all going to go. Okay, the assassinations that are constantly being attempted on a daily basis. The lack of trust in the IAEA by the Iranians. They're never going to trust the IAEA again because they were passing that information along to the Israelis. So who is going to act as some good faith broker in any sort of future nuclear deal? It's not going to happen unless there is total surrender, which the Iranians are never going to do. Okay. So, you have all of these indicators, and then you have the bipartisan support for the war. So don't ask the question of whether we're going to go to war. It's a question of when. It's just a dumb question to be asking at this point. If anything, the United States, they're already refueling Israeli jets. They're helping them shoot down their missiles. The only thing they're not doing is pushing the button that pulls the trigger, and it's probably some dual citizens, Israeli American citizens, who are in the cockpits doing that. Now, I don't know the legalities of participating in the IDF. Regardless, you get what I'm saying. They're going to mission creep their way in. regardless. Now the debate is moved to, are the B-2s going to work? You notice that? How they've moved the goalpost? It's no longer about, should we go to war? It's a question of, will the B-2 bombers have enough penetration power to... And I think that's a setup for the use of tactical nuclear weapons, the more I think about it. Because already the debate isn't, should Trump go to war? It's, Trump is now considering the plan being proposed by the military, who's suggesting that, yes, indeed, we can target the Fordow nuclear facility, which is under 90 meters of rock. There's no way in hell that these massive ordnance penetrators, which at best can go through, you know, maybe, what is it, like they say 30 meters of, and that would be, I'm not sure if it's reinforced concrete, not 30 meters. You never have 30 meters of reinforced concrete, but it would be like sand, mud, clay, that sort of stuff. That's not what this is. This is rock, okay? And we don't even know the real depths of that facility. It could go down 200, 300 meters. Even with nuclear weapons, all of the experts are like, this is stupid. The best you're going to do is be able to entomb it and hope that you are able to cap all the secret entrances that you probably don't see. Because I was thinking about it today, what they probably would do is, if it's in a mountain, then you would sort of like almost tunnel through, but not fully tunnel through, so that when the dust settled, you could quickly finish the tunnel and exit type thing, if that makes sense. But I'm sure that they have a lot of these ghost tunnels and entranceways. Anyways, it's neither here nor there. They're going to war, and that's all there is to it. Anyways, getting back to the purpose of this video. So Vladimir Putin's very, very calm demeanor today almost couldn't contain his excitement. Did you notice that? If you watch the press, I don't know what you would call it, he was sitting around a desk and answering questions. One of these made to appear to be impromptu pressers. But something was really off. He was oddly imperturbed, considering that, you know, he's in a hot war with NATO and his southern flank is about to be infested with NATO special forces and, you know, B-2 bombers. And that's the other thing, guys. I think one of the strategies or tactics or operations that they're going to run is going to be an attempt to actually get boots on the ground, special ops, try to get into these underground facilities, because they've been training for that. Now, that's some James Bond shit, and I would presume that the Iranians have these facilities well defended on the ground as well, right? But you just never know, because these guys got caught with their pants down once. It very likely will happen again, unless they've learned their lesson. Anyways, so why is Putin so cool, calm, and collected under what appears to be a very stressful, disadvantageous situation where you're going to be surrounded by NATO even more? Okay, you're going to have NATO on the Caspian Sea, potentially. Or some ISIS, Al-Qaeda, whoever, whatever puppet government they decide to put in there. The son of the Shah, or who knows, right? So this inspired some thoughts along the lines of, okay, why would Putin be happy right now? We've talked lots about on this channel about why Putin needs a front to take attention away from Iran. And no, I don't believe that him and Trump have made some back channel deal that, okay, you go and do Iran and I'll just, you know, keep Ukraine and, you know, we will just keep this on the low. I don't believe that for a second. For starters, they wouldn't have canceled the peace talks, right? They wouldn't have canceled that. And Putin wasn't just being nice about Iran, and wasn't just being, he was just being like way too, how can I say, considering the circumstances, copacetic with the Germans, who he said, oh yeah, we're willing to negotiate the Germans. I'm willing to meet with Zelensky. I'll meet with everybody. I'll meet with Trump and, yeah, you know, Taurus missiles and, you know, we're going to do some deals. And it just seemed to be like this excitement that he couldn't contain. And when it came to Iran, he said, well, you know, we had this agreement, or we, we have a mutual, a strategic military partnership, whatever they call it, falling short, of course, of a mutual defense clause. But, the Iranians said that they didn't want our air defense systems, and he made it very clear when he said that. Okay? Why did he say that? And what's up with the timing of that? Why did he feel the need today, on the eve of what's likely going to be the United States entering the war officially, why did he feel the need to say that, don't worry, we're not giving Iran any missile defense? Isn't that kind of odd? And remember, we got to think about the timing here, right? Because never mind the message. It's all about the timing with these things. When the president comes up or Putin comes up, you have to almost disregard the ambiguity of the message and just focus on, why are they telling me this now? Why is Putin talking about the Iranians not wanting any help now? Could it be that they're setting a trap for the West to enter into this conflict? And then when the West throws everything in there, throws in the B-2 bombers and the F-22s and the F-35s, that's when they're going to flip the switch. Once the West commits, but they need them to commit, right? Because the West is going to be very reluctant to commit if they know that there's S-400s, if they know that the Russians and the Chinese are actually going to come to the aid of the Iranians. Because were they to do that, then it's going to be a morass. It is going to be a never-ending quagmire if the regime can hold out. And I think with the guidance of a KGB expert like Vladimir Putin, who's a master of synoptic surveillance and people control, could easily advise the Ayatollah and his underlings on how to survive and ride out what's about to happen. So could it be that they have some secret agreement with the Iranians that, look, when it starts, only then can you push the button? Because the Russians, I presume, they may have some backdoor into these systems, some sort of kill switch. If they do have S-400s, the Iranians that is, that they could activate, turn on these radars when the time is right, when the bait's been taken by the West. And then I guess the question would be, well, how would you know if there's stealth aircraft that are not detectable by Iranian radars? Or maybe they'll have means of determining that. I guess what I'm trying to say is Putin seemed, and the Iranians themselves, who are also, they're in this military partnership with the Russians, I guess both have a vested interest in keeping it on the down low. Perhaps not so much anymore, because they were trying to, for the sake of maintaining diplomatic relations and trying to limit the sanctions that they came under, not openly forming a mutual defense pact like the North Koreans, who are already ostracized by the international community. It really didn't matter with them. But the Iranians and the Russians, because of the relationship with Israel, Vladimir Putin has to be very, very careful, because there's like 1.5 million or 2 million Russian-speaking Jewish diaspora. So they have to be very careful. But something sneaky is going on. I can't quite put my finger on it still, but this person's theory was that once NATO enters and takes the bait, because if you want to catch a big fish, you need a big bait, right? You need to really make it look like you're not going to come to their aid, even though it is 100% existential for the Russians and especially the Chinese to support Iran. They have to. Because if they don't, they're going to be completely and utterly surrounded. And they're going to have full monopoly over the Middle East. As I talked about earlier today, Saudi Arabia is next on the chopping block, right? Because Saudi Arabia's leverage is having Iran there as an enemy. That's the weird thing with this. So long as there's an enemy in Iran, the West kind of needs Saudi Arabia. But as soon as Iran is under their control, they don't really need the Saudis anymore. And that means that China is not only getting cut out of Iranian oil, they're getting cut out of all of the oil in the Middle East, potentially, the major oil producers, right? Now, I don't think they would do it entirely, but they have that control then. So this is absolutely existential for the Chinese and the Russians, but they're pretending as though it isn't. So is this bait? Is the question. Are they really going to push the button, turn on the radars when the big guns start flying overhead? And why the hell are people fleeing Israel if Iran is supposedly out of weapons? It can only mean one thing. Iran potentially has nuclear weapons already. We don't know what the outcome of the meeting between Donald Trump and the Pakistani chief of staff was today. Was it good? Was it bad? It's hard to say. I can't make heads or tails of that particular situation. And the reason why I bring that up is because the Pakistani defense minister said that they were going to come to Iran's aid should shit hit the fan. And I think Trump wanted to have Pakistan clarify their position. But why would they be leaving Israel on the day, or like, why did they ramp up this evacuation on the day that Iran demonstrated a weapon that you could mount a fairly sizable nuclear warhead on that would likely kill indiscriminately? And as I indicated yesterday, the Ayatollah, when you're approaching the end of your lifespan and you want to leave a legacy, for them, what better legacy could they possibly leave? For them, I do not want this to happen at all. I do not want the use of nuclear weapons at all. But if you're the Ayatollah and you want to leave a legacy that will be remembered, and remember, the Iranians said that we're going to do something that's going to be remembered for centuries, whilst putting out propaganda videos of them stroking a nuke like a Persian cat. I'm not sure if you've seen that video, but it's out there. They're stroking a little mini nuclear weapon like it's a Persian cat, okay? And so this is a self-fulfilling prophecy, if there ever was one. I mean, the rationale is just absurd when you think about it on its face. It's like Iran may get a nuclear weapon because we thought they might get a nuclear weapon and we're going to have to nuke them. Like, it just, the most weird circular reasoning that, you know, it just makes no sense whatsoever. So I suspect that the Russians and the Iranians have some secret pact. And this might seem like obvious because this is something that we thought about a year or so ago. I mean, I'm sure that everybody was talking about how, yeah, the Russians have secretly put Su-35s, and that was actually a deal that was advertised. It was known about, but we still haven't presumably seen them. Apparently, the Israelis might have hit an airfield and took some of them out. But we all thought and suspected that maybe they put S-400s there, because we've been talking about this for a long time, guys. If you're new to this channel, much longer than most of the people who are just, getting on the trend at this point, who really don't know what they're talking about and don't offer any unique insights. They just kind of are using this as a political grift. Like, now that it's being used as a wedge issue, and the left is taking it on as a cause, but they don't understand, all the minutia. But I suspect that there's something now, to see it unfold, it's something else, because you clearly see that Putin is hiding something. And as stoic and as well composed as he is, you can still tell, because we've seen him so many times now, when he is not being straight with us. So I suspect that Vladimir Putin is, and I'm not gonna make a call, not like a Babe Ruth like I did yesterday, where I said Trump is gonna declare war in a few hours, and then I realized, well, they're never gonna, they're not gonna declare war until after the planes are already pounding the targets. So then I somewhat walked that back, but regardless, a few hours, a few days, it's not going to make a difference when it starts. But I will say, I think there is something more to this. Because again, either Iran has a nuclear deterrent, because if they don't, they're probably going down if Russia and China doesn't come to their back and if they can't hold it together. And because the West are masters at espionage, they are masters at the double cross and Machiavellian tactics. Because of that, there's a very good chance that they're going to be able to potentially do things, what they tried to do in Russia. It's the same playbook, but they couldn't. They're going to have more success in Iran, based on what we've seen so far, okay? So that's what I suspect. I think that the Russians have a secret pact with the Iranians that once the U.S. enters the war, that's when they flick the switch. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Go check out my interview with Jamal Thomas. It's an hour and a half long, but it's a good listen. A nice stream of consciousness, interviews, two guys trying to figure it out. Thanks for watching, my friends. You take care.